I look at you young, shiny people starting out, I have good news for you, which is that if you are doing what you feel most passionate about and you keep at it, and you don't stress about becoming an overnight success, and you definitely don't engage in this deadly game of seeing what your competition is doing, and you just really keep at it and do your best, that inevitably you will find success. Now, success can be measured in many different ways: health, wealth, love, etc. The oceanfront mansion in the Hamptons, that would be nice. But definitely one key way of being successful is doing what you love, doing what makes you happy, doing what gets you bouncing out of bed in the morning and fills you with excitement and passion. So that's the good news, and in that sense, I definitely encourage you to pursue your creative dreams. But meanwhile, happiness doesn't pay the rent, and you have to make the rent, and you have to make a living, and we live in New York City, which we all know is super expensive and all of that. So obviously you're going to need to either find a job in the field of your dreams, or you are going to, if you're going to be striking it on your own, you're going to have to create a steady stream of freelance assignments. And when you're starting out, whether again just starting out fresh out of college, or in my situation when you are having a second career, it can be very challenging because a potential employer or client wants to see a body of work, and to have that body of work, they have to give you that job and that experience. So it's a catch-22, and it can be super frustrating. But I think this is the time when you have to be strong, steady, and strategic, and use all of the tools and resources that are available to you. Now, the first and most important resource is yourself. Like, you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will either. But that said, networking is key, and by being present in this conference, that's what you're doing. Being proactive is very important, which is searching out career opportunities and also opportunities for learning and growth. And again, by being in this conference, that's what you're doing, so kudos. And I want to stress one of the most pivotal parts of your job hunting strategy is to establish an online presence. Now, by online presence, I don't mean like posting, pictures of your fabulous night out on Facebook, or posting selfies to Instagram, of the food that you had. What I mean is to establishing an online professional presence. There was a time when having a website that was your online presence. But of course, these days, the collective, cohesive online presence is everything that you do via social media, Twitter, Instagram, the usual suspects, right? And it's absolutely, without a doubt, social media is a compelling and super powerful way of putting yourself out there, of branding yourself, of engaging with people, of communicating, and basically do establish your online presence. But does that mean then that a website is no longer necessary and it's obsolete? And I want to tell you that absolutely not, and to the contrary. And in fact, having a website should be at the cornerstone of your online branding strategy. But why? When you're job hunting, think of it this way. One of the most important things that you need to do is to master and craft your elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is basically a short summary, usually 30 seconds or so, when you give a summary of who you are, what you do, and why you are the perfect candidate for any given job or assignment. The elevator pitch gets its name from this theoretical scenario that, let's say, you're in an elevator with that ideal potential client or employer, and they're stuck with you because they're in the elevator with you, but they're only stuck with you till they get to their floor. So you have this limited window of opportunity to really sell yourself in a clear and concise way, and again, tell them who you are, what you do, and why you would be the perfect person to get this job or assignment that they should hand it over to you. Now, think of your website as basically an online manifestation of your elevator pitch, with the added advantage that you are not limited to 30 seconds, and with the added advantage that you have controlled it and you have crafted it, and it's there, and it's not subject to, let's say, butterflies or jitters or getting tongue-tied or whatever. So it's there. So basically, your website is your best presentation, your first impression, and your best impression, and it's there, and it's basically the best format of your elevator pitch. But then there's also another useful reason for having a website, especially when starting out, especially when you have established yourself. And that's something what is one of the first things that people ask you when you meet them? It's, what do you do? I mean, that's part, for better or for worse, that's part of the fabric of our culture, where that's what we ask. We don't say, what's your favorite book? What are your dreams and aspirations? We say, what do you do? And again, for better or for worse, we judge each other by that. Now, for people who are starting out or who are either underemployed or unemployed or who are looking for a job, it's something that you may dread being asked. And a lot of people hem and haw and may say things like, well, you know, I do X, but what I really want to do is Y. And no, you don't want to do that. You want to, whenever somebody asks you what do, you want to be able to say, I do this, clearly and confidently. And what is this? This is exactly what you are most passionate about. And so you want to say, this is what I do, and here's my card. And what's going to be on your card is going to be a URL to your website. And what's going to be on your website is going to be the best presentation of your work, your portfolio, whatever it is, whether it's video or your journalistic clips or your illustrations, whatever it is, it's going to be the best samples of your work, your bio, about section, how to contact you, and a link to all of your social media presence. Because one of your goals, actually, in having engaging in social media is to route all of your social media followers, getting all of those eyeballs, bring them back to your website, this one central place where you have created and toned and honed the best version of you, and it's there. And again, think of a website as having this office that's open 24/7, it's open globally, and it's giving the best impression of you at all times. So and that's pretty much it. So and also getting back to the clients, like, you know, how you, if you don't have a body of work, it's very reassuring to a client if they Google you, if your website pops up first instead of any random things that could come up. And when they go there, if you have been presenting yourself in a well-crafted way, they're going to have a good idea of who you are, what you're capable of doing, and what you can bring to the table. So it's reassuring to a client as well, who may then be willing to take a chance on you because you have taken yourself seriously and you have given a very professional presentation of yourself and your capabilities. Whether you got paid for the samples that you have on your portfolio or not, it doesn't make a difference. What matters is to show what you are capable of. And basically then, in summary, I just want to tell you that having a website is just like a really great way to market yourself, differentiate yourself, brand yourself, set yourself apart from your competitors, and just give a good and lasting impression. I mean, when we're hanging out our own, by ourselves, like we may be wearing our sweats and watching trashy shows and, eating chips, but when you go out on a date, what do? You dress up, you clean up, and you talk about reading the New Yorker instead of Us Weekly or Delisted. So think of a website in that sense as well, that even while you may be, schlubbing it and like being at home, like for a potential employer, if they look you up, they see the best version of you. They don't see you in your sweat, they see the very best, dressed up, ready to work, ready for action version of you. And with that, I'm going to pass the podium to our Wix Wiz.
So who has a website in here? Raise your hands.
The blog or like...
Who started a website and said, oh my god, this is so scary? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about how to build your online portfolio and not get so scared that you run away from it. Because that's what happened to me when I first started as well. So I'm going to talk about getting started. I think the one thing that people forget is that creating a website is hard work. You see all these ads on TV about how easy it is to create your own website. It's actually, you have to take some time. You have to think about your personal brand, like Azita was saying, and you have to think about what you want on your site, and that takes time. And I think the one thing that I always tell people before they start their website is do not open your laptop. Take a piece of paper and write down everything that you think you want on your site, and think about, kind of who you are. So first off, don't get overwhelmed. It's going to be a hard journey, but it's going to be really fun too. The second one is think about your audience. So do you guys ever take an advertising course or anything like that where they say, so you're a brand, you got to think about your one customer that you're trying to target. Like, she's Sally and she's 45 and she has 3 kids. And you guys ever done that before?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now you have to start thinking of yourself as your own brand. And because you're doing that, you're thinking about who's going to see my site and what do I want the impact to be. So if you're trying to get hired at an ad agency, your site might look very different than if you're trying to get hired at a law firm. So I think that's a really good tool to think about. Like, now that you're graduated and you're moving on, you are your own personal brand. And I know that can be a little bit scary, but it's also really helpful to narrow down exactly who you are, what you want to do. And as Zita was saying too, it's actually very powerful you can actually put the best person out there that you want to be. So instead of saying, I do this, but I really want to do this, now you can create a site that says, this is what I really want to do. And that's really powerful. And then the other thing is do your research. This is actually the fun part, is you get to go through all the sites that you love and decide what are the specific elements that you like about them. A lot of times we just have a feeling when we get to a site. We're like, oh, I really like this but I'm not really sure why. So start kind of dissecting and thinking with a critical mind on what is it about this site that I really love, and then make a doc of all those sites, because that's going to be really helpful to you when you actually start building your site. So content building. This is before we've even opened a Wix editor or whatever other website builder you choose. You want to build out all your content. So make sure you have all your videos in one place, you have all your photos in one place, make sure you have all the written things done. So write out your about me, write out kind of your one kind of line that you're going to grab people with. And as I said, get back to the basics, write it all down on pen and paper. Then when you have all of your content, this is going to make it so much easier for you when you're actually deciding to build your website. Another good thing is to think about the categories you want. So are you going to have special projects? Are you going to have your resume? I hope you do. We'll get to the checklist in a second. But just think about how you're going to break up your site. I'm a photographer myself, and it actually took me a long time to play with the categories and think about how am I going to break up my work. So that's another thing you guys should always do, even before you open an editor. On Wix, we have templates. Don't feel like you're locked into a template by any means, but there's CV and personal templates that you guys can explore. So I would just encourage you to look at both those areas on the Wix templates, because we've already built tons of templates that are actually for like an online business card, which is something we like to call it. So that's another really good way to kind of explore how have people laid out their sites. And now we're on to the website checklist. These are just things that we see all the time. We see hundreds of sites, Wix sites a week in New York, and we're always helping people. And these are kind of the things that I want to talk to you guys about. Allison Scholl, she's a FindSpark member. She's really done an amazing job with her website, and this is just a great example. So the number one is easy to contact. I see a lot of students that do not have their phone number, they don't have their email, it's just like a contact form, and that is actually preventing you from getting contacted, because do you think recruiters are going to go in and fill out a contact form? Probably not. So, but if you have your personal email on there, they will contact you right away. And I know that's something that people get scared about, like having their phone numbers on there or something like that. But you can, there's ways around that. You can do Google Voice and other applications, so you don't actually have to have your real number on there. That can be something that is helpful. Your resume. A lot of people have PDF versions of their resume online, and I do encourage you to have a downloadable PDF resume. That's great. But it's also really good to have a text resume, because that means that Google is able to find those keywords in your resume. Otherwise, you're losing all of those opportunities for people to be able to search for you. So I would definitely make a text version of your resume, and then at the bottom just have a button that says download my resume here. So it makes it really easy for them. Special projects. This is the best thing about a website. You will never be able to put special projects on your resume and have them sing the way you can do it on a website. So, I went to Africa and I was working for a nonprofit, and I took tons of photos and videos, but that would never translate on a resume. It just says, fellowship, took photos and videos. That's not the same thing. That's not the powerful message you can send when you actually have a whole section of your site that's special projects. That can show your volunteer work, show anything else that you've done to give back to the community. And that's a really good thing to include as well. as Azita mentioned, all your social links, your website is your social hub. So as I've mentioned before, when people Google you, you want to be able to have your website be the first thing that pops up, because this is the only platform where you get to be uniquely you. Like you don't get to brand your Facebook page the way you want it to, right? I mean, there's one layout and you're going to stick with it. This is your chance to really sing. And it's your chance to make sure you have everything in one place. So make sure you have all your social links on there. An About Me section is always really nice to have. I like how Allison did it on her front page, and she kind of has a quote to live by. She makes it a little bit more personal. That's a really nice touch. A great headshot. I can't say enough how important that is. If you guys go to any FindSpark events, a lot of the times they actually have someone doing headshots on site at their events, so that's one thing to think about. Even just getting a friend to do it for you, as long as there's nice light and it's a great day and you're smiling big, you can get a nice headshot. You don't have to have a professional one, but just make sure it's not dark and make sure you're smiling, because you want to make sure you're giving the best first impression. And then if you have a blog, this is also a really good way to increase your SEO, to make sure you're coming up in search results. So the more kind of content you create, the better. That's gonna let Google know that this is not a static website, that you're actually in here updating it all the time. And that's the great thing about your website, it's because as you change, your website can change as well. So that's the basics of the checklist. Christine's actually going to go into more of the design stuff, which is the fun part. But if you guys do want to contact me, here is my email and my social. And we work at the Wix Lounge. If you guys are freaking out about getting started and want some help, we actually have free support, 45-minute sessions. It's just like going to the Apple Store. All you have to do is book an appointment at wixlounge.com. And that's going to take some of the stress off. So if you guys do want help with your sites, we're more than happy to do that.
So we haven't actually talked about what Wix is yet. Does anyone here know what Wix is? Has a Wix website? A few people. I see some nodding. Okay, cool. So before we get started on this presentation, Wix is a free website building platform that is super easy to use. If you're not a designer, if you've never had any experience at all, you can actually go in there, just put in your email, and create a website in about 10 seconds. You can change everything in a site. We have templates like Annie said, or you can go in there and start something completely from scratch. So anything that you see here on this presentation, you can actually go home and do today, right after you finish with the conference. So no excuses. And we're also here to answer any questions. Here's an example of a portfolio page. You don't have to think about, I want to make it super unique and I want to make it stand out from the crowd in that sense. You want to make your work speak for yourself. So don't worry about just putting out a grid, putting out something very simple where just the images, or if you're a journalist or if you're a writer, just the words themselves speak for themselves. And don't worry about making the layout all fancy. This is a great one to start with. Here's an about page. It's a little bit too much text for me, but I just wanted to bring this up because this is a way where if you feel like you need to put more information, this is a relatively nice way to put it. She has her photo, nice professional photo, like Annie said. She has a nice quote from herself and her section, but that's it. Okay? So that's the first thing. Go explore, go find a site, go steal the crap out of it. Okay? Second tip. Before you start designing your website, set your mood by setting your limits. What I mean by setting your limits is that I see sites with 5 million font choices and another 10 colors all over the site, and it just looks like a rainbow disaster. You do not want your site to look like that, especially if it's a professional site, right? Because you want to come off as someone who is cool, calm, collected, professional, and knows how to look like a professional, okay? So the first thing that comes with that is your color palette. Here are 3 examples. And you can see already how the mood of the color palette changes just by changing a few things. I put black in here because I always like to put black text somewhere on my website, so that's my default go-to, and I see how the other colors react. This is before you even step into layout. Okay? Pick 3 colors. I said 3 colors maximum. I would prefer if you picked 2 or less, but stick with them. Here's a little pro tip. If you have a color that you really like, say you want that blue to be your color. When you go to your website, when you go to your business card, when you go to your blog, that blue is there. Copy down this number. Every color that appears on the internet has this number. If you don't know how to find it, come talk to me afterwards. But copy that down and make sure everything's exactly the same. Fonts are the same way. You want to choose your family ahead of time and then stick with the 3 that you choose. I'm going with the number 3 again. And this is because you're probably going to need about 3 different size fonts and 3 different style fonts throughout your website. You're going to need your title font, which is maybe your name or the thing that says resume at the top. You're going to need a header that says kind of those subtitles, like, not subtitles, subheaders, I guess, for maybe the years on your resume or the titles that you had. And then the body is everything else, all the small text. Okay? And the reason why I write character, visibility, legibility is because those are going to be your priorities with choosing each font. Okay? Your big font, your big title font is going to need a lot of character. That's where you put in all of your funky stuff, anything where you want to put in your brand, put it in the title. Leave it out of the rest, because the rest has to be super legible. That's number 1. Here are a couple families that I just put out that you could actually use. These are all available on Wix as well. If you do choose to go that route, you can copy those down. I do want to talk about this for a second because it is a nice, cohesive font group. Okay, you have this kind of fun, chalky script, then you have a painted feel, and then you have this basic font for your paragraph. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because even though it's nice and it's cohesive, this is not really something that you want on your professional site. Maybe if you're a children's illustrator or something that has to do with that category, that's fine. But remember that when people are looking for you, probably before they even think about your skill set and what you can actually do project-wise, they're trying to find someone professional who fits the brand, who can come to work on time. This professionality is seen with fonts like this. Font groups like this, okay? So remember, choosing your fonts not only important to keeping your layout together and keeping your design together, but also it's saying a lot about you as a person. So how many designers do we have in this crowd? Any at all? Have a couple? Okay, cool. So this may be a little bit of a review for you, but these are 3 tips that I give to folks who aren't super familiar with design to get you the biggest impact with the least amount of mess. Number 1. Any guesses?
Colors.
What was it?
Colors.
Colors. Well, we did cover that. That was a big one. My number 1 tip is open space. Do not be afraid of white space. We're always talking about content, but what about the space in between all the content? Give it some breathing room. Let someone enjoy the experience of being on your website rather than feeling cramped and overwhelmed. This is a great use of open space on your website. Want to see even more space? Recognize this website? They are, a little known for their design, but Apple is one of the best resources to look at. Look at their new design materials, look at their promotional items, see what they're doing. These companies are on the forefront of what's going on in regards to design trends. Use their knowledge. Major hint, if you find yourself putting so much on your resume or on your portfolio page that you have to start using boxes and lines to separate things, you're not giving it enough space. Okay? You should never have to use boxes and lines to separate things because of organization. You should only use them if it's for decoration. That was from my high school newspaper editor advisor. Okay? Number 2. Big, beautiful visuals. Not just your headshot. Pictures of your work. If you're an artist, even if you're a writer and you have no images of your own, but you want to put a photo that represents who you are, make sure it's big and beautiful. Quick example. This is a little template I put together. It looks alright. It's clean, it's got its font together, it's got its colors together, it's got a nice little image. What happens when we make that a little bigger? All of a sudden, it feels a lot better, right? And then what if we bring that to the next level? All of a sudden, it's not just a website anymore. It's an experience. So think about that. Every time you use images, think about how you can make them better and bigger. Number 3. Focal points. So this is about user experience. This is about how people get to your website and how they feel about what they see. This is an example of a website that I like, and as soon as I look at this homepage, where is my eye going? I'm going logo, I'm going tagline, I'm going picture. They picked 3 highlights, and everything else is small and kind of in the background. If you have those competing against each other, you will not have the impact that this has. If everything was big and everything was in your face, you wouldn't see anything at all. This is a very classic homepage style of a resume or portfolio website where you're not selling too much, you don't have much to put on. Name, photo. That's it. Okay? Trying to make these images and text speak for themselves is really important. Here are some tools that you can take away. Even though I saw a bunch of designer hands, you're probably very fluent in Adobe Creative Suite. If you do not know Photoshop, don't be afraid of editing your photos. There's things like clippingmagic.com. It actually gets rid of the background in photos for you. Taking away some designer jobs, so sorry. But go check it out. Really easy. Dafont.com. Free, easy place to find fonts, all your styles, all your choices. And then within Wix.com itself, you can actually edit your own photos. So don't know Photoshop, don't want to use Instagram because it ruins your photos quality. Go into Wix, use the image editor. You can change the balance, saturation, brightness, contrast, all that fun stuff in about 3 clicks. So when you go home today, I know you're going to be super pumped and ready to start on your own site. So here is some help for you if you want to check this out. We have our own Wix blog, which actually talks about all sides of marketing, not just websites, but things like 30 subject lines to put in your email newsletter, or 20 users who are using Pinterest really well. Things like that that you might not find anywhere else. You can check it out there. This next link is actually samples of great designed websites. And if you wanted to try my #1 tip, which was steal from other people, that's the place to go find them.